Tailang. We're at the dormitory and we've got the boys. These are the unattended minors, or the unaccompanied minors, which means some of them are actually orphans, some of them, their parents have brought them here and left them to the care of the Army for various reasons, either because it was unsafe in their village or just that their parents thought they could get a better education here and they could get food, get access to some volunteer medical care. So today we got a nice group of volunteers here rendering medical aid and doing art projects with the children. Now, if you've been watching the video, you'll see the backs of their heads. A lot of these people are afraid to have their face on camera because of reprisals. So we have to ask what type of world we've created where rendering medical aid to a child could be construed as a crime. Today I'm talking to Steve. Steve can also not come on camera, so he's standing behind the camera. Steve, can you tell me about your organization and what you're doing here?
Yeah, I work with a small non-government charity based in the United States called Partners. And we've been working with the Shan people in this camp, Loi Tailang, since 2002. And the things that we've invested in are healthcare, childcare, and then some community development projects.
What have you seen? What are some of the biggest needs that they have here? Because I mean, I'm very grateful and thankful that you're here, but they need a lot more. Well, what do you think would be the biggest help that someone would be able to give to them?
Well, their biggest need is something no one can really give to them, at least not yet, and that's freedom for their country. But in terms of material aid, the children have tremendous needs for clothing, blankets, supplemental food. They need medical care that is more regular and more sustained. They need more caregivers. There's 172 of what they call orphans. Roughly half of those would be mom and dad are both dead, and then the other half would be one or the other parent has passed away, and then the child was sent here because the other parent couldn't
take care of them.
Right, yeah. So if you look at, I'm not quite sure how to quantify their greatest need because they need everything that a normal, healthy child would be given in the West. Most of those needs are not met. So we're doing our best to provide those basic services.
And you're doing a very good job.
Thanks, Antonio. But if I could say one word to the West, that would be to care and to ask yourself what you would do if it was your child in the same circumstances.
I like that. Think about their children, our children, everyone's children. You know, everyone's doing the best they can here, from the Army and the volunteers. Everyone's doing the best they can for these children, but Steve touched on nutritional issues. The basic diet here is rice 3 times a day. It's a decent quantity of rice, but it's mostly rice. Would you agree with that, Steve?
Yeah, that's right.
So there's a real shortage of fresh fruits, vegetables, and protein.
Yeah.
These kids don't get really any meat at all. Very, very, very little meat at all in their diet.
Yeah.
And I imagine it reflects in the health checks that you're doing.
Yeah, some percentage of these kids would be protein malnourished.
Protein malnourished.
That is not just because of a lack of food, but also because they end up with parasites. And if the parasites go unchecked, then that consumes the nutrients in their body.
And how would we have avoided the parasites? Would that be through regular medical treatments or regular checks? Or
in this situation, it would be through regular medical treatment because the hygiene is so low because of the war. In a more sustainable situation, it would be to elevate hygiene in the communities that they are from.
Okay, and why is the hygiene low here?
Well, it's a war survival situation, and I think they're scrambling. The caregivers in this camp are just scrambling to take care of the kids that have come here. And as more and more children have come here, they have just tried to keep up with the human need that is here. They can't, so far they've not managed to keep up or bring a higher standard to this place.
How many, are there any doctors here permanently?
No doctors.
2 nurses, is that right?
Well, there's 1 head nurse in a small clinic, and there's, I think she said there's 25 nursing staff that work with her.
Okay, and for the folks at home in America or Canada or Australia, these are not nurses in the sense that we know a nurse, right? They haven't been to a university course or something.
They would have had between 3 months and 8 or 9 months of training. to do what they do, yeah.
And a lot of this medical training, is that from your organization, or?
We participate in it, but it's really based out of Dr. Cynthia's clinic in Mesot.
Okay, and if you've been following the Burma situation, you know about Dr. Cynthia, and she's wonderful. She's won awards. She's been raised by everyone for the wonderful work she's doing on the border, providing medical aid to the Burmese refugees.
Yeah.
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 All right. So tell me about your philosophy. I heard you say today about how the art project ties into love and how that ties into the war. Tell us about that.
Well, the war in Burma has been going on for more than 50 years. The civil war that is the daily grind of the people of Burma. And I believe that history is on the side of the moral right. That is, that eventually people who do evil will eventually cave in upon themselves or dismantle by popular movement from the people. So, in my mind, the most powerful force historically is not hate, and it's not brutality, which this regime is known for. It's love. So when I meet with these children, my hope is that I can inspire them to love one another, and that love plants seeds all around through relationships and even inside Burma of love as opposed to hate. I don't believe it's wrong at all for them to fight for their country, to even kill for their country. But I do believe that even in the act of killing in the name of defense or to defend one's home, you can still be motivated by love. That's my hope for these kids. A lot of them will end up becoming soldiers.
To put this conflict in context, the government of Burma spends arguably 40% of the total budget on military expenditure, and I've heard figures ranging from 20 to 40%. But this is a country that has absolutely zero external enemies. That means the entire expenditure is to provide soldiers to protect the government from the people. Yeah. Or another way of seeing it is soldiers to attack the people who are hated by their own government.
It's one of the biggest conventional armies on the planet. They have roughly 500,000 regular troops. And I've read numbers that suggest they spend up to 70% of their GNP on their military. So you're talking about a systemic military machine that, the name of the game in Burma is exploitation to support the militarization of this regime. And you're right, they don't have any external enemies. They have rather deals made with all of their neighboring countries for the game of exploitation. That's power, energy, oil, natural gas, jade, gems.
So how do the tribal people fall into that?
Well, they are just the victims of their birthplace. They happen to be born where those natural resources are, or they happen to be in the way of the development of roads or transport for those natural resources. So the junta will just forcibly relocate them, either relocating them to a new place to live, or just simply going in and shooting up the place and telling the survivors or whoever they catch that if they return, they'll be killed.
Right.
So,
and even the relocations are a very violent act generally. Yeah, this is not an eviction notice. This is people being shot, killed, raped.
Right.
Yeah.
Get in the truck now and you're taken to a place where there are no natural resources.
And being farmers, obviously, they can't take their fields with them.
Yeah, and these are people who don't really understand the war. They are farmers, most of them. And so they're just plain and simple, they're victims. They're victims of a terrible war. They're innocent, peace-loving people who want to farm their land and raise their children. And in my mind, this is a basic human right that's being violated. So,
Well, Steve, we'll all say a prayer for Burma.
Right on, thanks.
Thank you for your great work here.
Thanks.